Hi guys, welcome back to Seize the Day, a channel dealing with Tourette syndrome, epilepsy, chronic health conditions, medical health conditions, and anything that really falls in between. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you because I've gotten 200 subscribers somehow, and I'm really grateful. So thank you for anybody who is watching. Bit of a disclaimer, I'm talking about something a little bit heavy today. It's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but it's been it's a difficult subject to talk about. So disclaimer, trigger warning, if you do suffer with PTSD, if there's anything around medical stuff that would trigger you, yeah, you might want to skip this one. And also I'd like to add as well that most of the healthcare professionals that I've dealt with have been fine. I've just had some unfortunate experiences in my time. So let me take you back to 2020. What a great year that was. Wow, so much. Yeah, let's not even go down that route. So anyway, I went to hospital in the middle of COVID. I had the most severe pain in my stomach that I'd ever felt in my entire life. It was so severe that it was sort of affecting my cognitive ability a bit because illness tends to bring on my epilepsy a little bit. So when I arrived at hospital, I advised them that I wasn't sure if maybe I'd taken a couple of extra of paracetamol. So they put me on a drip, you know, as if you'd taken an overdose, so they put you on a drip to make sure. And they basically left me there. This is going to be harder to talk about than I thought. So I came into hospital initially into A&E, and I was in so much pain. No one could come in with me that I couldn't sit on the chairs. I was crying out with pain. I couldn't stop that from happening. I was crying out. I hobbled up to the front desk and asked if there was somewhere I could lay down, even if it was seats in a different place. This nurse, she was not happy with me at all. She rolled her eyes at me. She also told me that, of course, I was sweating because I was wearing too much clothes. Actually, what I was wearing was very, very thin, but obviously she didn't know that. And she just dismissively took me to this room in A&E. Anyway, I was triaged and no tests were taken. And I was left in this room. So it turned out I had a kidney infection. And they left me in this room without water, without my epilepsy medication, both of which I'd asked for, and without water could seriously make my kidney condition much worse. And they left me there for 9 hours. 9 hours. So eventually I pressed the call button so that a nurse would come and see me. I knew that the A&E ward wasn't too busy because obviously I could see and hear all the other wards. And I could hear the nurses because the nurse station was on the other side at their desks. So I'm pretty sure they could hear me. So my alarm call went off for 20 minutes. I was quite delirious because I had a really bad fever and I was in agony from the fact that I had a kidney infection. So after 20 minutes of them not coming, I tried to get out of bed myself because I knew I needed water and my epilepsy medication fast. Otherwise, I was going to have a seizure. So I tried to get out of bed. I fell out of bed and I remained on the floor for a good amount of time. So while I was on the floor in this hospital room, the call alarm was still going off. And I was going, help me, please. I'm on the floor. I can't get up. Please help me, please. I'm sorry. Please help me. And I'm pretty sure that they could hear me because I could hear them. I could hear the woman next door talking about the television that she was watching and things like that. And so I'm pretty sure she could hear me. And in that moment, I wasn't really sure. I had nobody there to advocate for me. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I kept losing consciousness. Anyway, eventually a doctor came round to see me, a consultant found me on the floor. And he was really shocked at what had happened. He made me do a urine test and said, why on earth was this not done at your first triage over 10 hours ago now? Because it's clear that you've got at least a urine infection, and from what it sounds like, you've got a kidney infection. And they've left you here without water, which is what you really need, and without your epilepsy medication and on the floor. I want you to complain. So when I was eventually discharged, because I was a little bit reluctant to complain. I was reluctant to complain because of COVID. I was like, these nurses, they're doing so much, which is true. But at the same time, he said, if you don't complain, then this could happen again. He said, if I hadn't come, who knows what might have happened? You could have hit your head. You could have had a seizure. It's not good enough. So yeah, that was the first horrible experience. The second horrible experience in the same hospital was before I had my surgery for an ovarian cyst. So I came in a great amount of pain, and I mean severe level pain. They'd given me morphine, they'd given me diazepam, but all my vitals were showing fine. So I was staying in there overnight, and I was in so much pain that a woman across the bed from me kept going, "God, can't she be quiet? She's a grown adult." Thanks. I told the nurses this and they said, nah, don't think she did say that. I was like, okay, well, she just said it, but fine. I was so sick that I couldn't stay in my bed. I couldn't lie still. The pain was so excruciating that I was throwing up. I had to get up and walk around. I don't know if you've ever been in that really severe pain where you feel like it's almost like being on fire, like you try and run away from it. You can't stay still. So I was like walking around and I was begging the nurses to do a scan because I was worried. And they tried to like engage me in normal conversation. I was like, I can't talk right now. I'm in so much pain. I'm sorry. Please, can you do a scan? They did my obs. All my obs were fine, so they didn't bother. So they rolled their eyes. I will never forget that feeling of being in hospital on my own, being in absolute agony despite having had morphine and diazepam, and the other patients judging me for making a noise because I was in so much pain. And I will never forget pleading with the nurses to please scan me and then rolling their eyes at me. I'll never forget that. In that moment, I felt so helpless. I was like, oh, okay, right. I felt like I could die. It was that bad. It felt like I'd been shot in the stomach. Then they never did scan me, and the next day they discharged me with anxiety. Anxiety. So I was in this agonizing pain, and I called my doctor and said, they think it's anxiety. Give me some diazepam and I'll tell you how I feel tomorrow. Took the diazepam and I felt just as evil tomorrow. And sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. Anyway, it turns out it was an ovarian cyst. I had a bleeding cyst, which I had removed by surgery, and it keeps coming back. So the gynecologist I saw said that night was almost certainly an ovarian cyst popping. And because it bleeds, there was quite a high risk that I could have developed sepsis. But that's not really the scary part for me. The scary part was the being on my own and the nurses rolling their eyes. So that's the second story. Okay, the third one actually happened right after my surgery. So I had surgery, had an ovarian cyst taken out. Good times. I have no trust of the medical system now, so I felt fine after the anaesthetic and I signed myself out early. And then I started throwing up blood when I got home, coughing up blood. And I'm sure it was because of the tube, but the ambulance crew came around. Because my heart rate was so high and I'd been coughing up blood, they made me go to hospital. They weren't very nice to me, but you know, they're just rude. They weren't particularly mean. So when I got to hospital, I was very anxious. And I explained to the woman, the nurse that I saw, I said, I'm sorry that I'm so anxious. It's not you. It's not personal. But I did have this experience here where I ended up on the floor for a long time and I'm a bit scared. And she was like, all right. Anyway, then I got moved from one room to a different room because they needed to put an alcoholic dude in my room. And when I got to my room, this is mid-COVID, height of COVID, I noticed there was big blood spots on the floor, and I took photos of them. So I called for the nurse. The nurse came in. She was like, "What do you want?" And I said, "Well, this room hasn't been cleaned." And she said, "Yeah, it has." And I said, "Well, I know that it hasn't because there's blood on the floor." And that's not good at the best of times because of the risk of bloodborne viruses. But yeah, and she goes to me, she didn't say, "Oh, sorry, I'll get that cleaned." I had just told her about how I ended up on the floor. And she said to me, "Well, you're not going to be licking the floor, are you?" Yeah, so those were my 3 pretty horrific experiences. I don't like to talk about them very much because I feel like I'm moaning about the NHS, and I understand how pressured everyone is. However, this is the issue. If you're a disabled person, if you've got chronic health conditions, if you're very weak, if you're in hospital on your own, there's nobody else to be your witness. There's nobody else to advocate for you. And that really scares me, to be honest, because I had nobody there to help me in these situations, and it could have gone really bad. And I wonder what they would have said. Not the truth, I don't expect. So this is just me coming in to remind you that medical PTSD is a very real thing. If you have it, treat it. If you've got conditions, because right now I'm still afraid to go to hospital, even if I know I should go. The PTSD is almost subconscious. I get flashbacks, but I know that I need to go. So I suggest we talk about these experiences. I suggest we all talk about every time we felt discriminated or alone or lost or scared in the medical setting that's supposed to help us the most. I really feel like we don't have a voice, and I'm not really sure what I'm getting out of sharing this video. I just want people to know that if it's happened to you, you're not alone. There's always a place to talk about it. Don't be ashamed of getting things like medical PTSD. It's very real. And if you want to share your story, if you have one, then please do in the comments below. I hope you're all well. And my next video will be a lot more positive. I just wanted to let you know where I'd been, really. I did disappear in 2020. And it was because, yeah, my health had taken a nosedive. And those were the experiences that I had. Yeah. I hope you're all well and happy. And please don't let this ever put you off getting medical help that you need. Not everybody's going to be like that. These are rare experiences. Just make sure if they happen to you, you remember your voice matters just as much as anybody else. Just because you might not be able to do certain things, or maybe your brain is wired in a different way, that doesn't mean you deserve to be treated differently, or made to feel small, or made to feel unsafe, or made to feel unheard, or made to feel crazy. If you're treated like that, stand up. Your voice counts. You're valid. I love you. And I believe in you. We've got this.